and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network present Dallas Cowboys Football 2026 in crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by
Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. Blockchain.com. Invest like an icon with Blockchain.com. Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiafalo and Brian Broaddus.
Oh, we are ready to party, ladies and gentlemen. It's the official pregame show of America's team, brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. They are proud to bring you today's pregame show, America's original craft vodka, the man who loves vodka more than anyone, Tito's in particular. It's the Woolly Bully Zach Wolchuk in for the Super Bowl champion Brian Broaddus, who, of course, if you were Toloing yesterday in the G-Bag Nation, you heard Broaddus call in during Krusty's Corner live from the hospital bed with morphine just coursing through his old man veins. And unfortunately, against his own will, I believe they actually had to do one of those things, you know, when someone's in trouble, but they're also injured, and so they have to handcuff you to the hospital bed. That's what they had to do to Broaddus tonight to keep him out of the studio. You know how much preseason games mean to him, how much they matter to him. He is on the injured list, okay? He was doubtful coming in, and now he's officially ruled out. So for the next 3 hours and then 2 hours of post, it's going to be me, Eric Chiafalo, and the greatness of the Woolly Bully Zach Wolchuk, getting you covered for Cowboys and Cardinals live from Arizona. Wolchuk, how you doing?
Fired up, man. I mean, who doesn't love preseason football? Screw Arizona, though, I will say. Like, we got a 9 o'clock local kick in the preseason, really. Could have done this thing. We're watching all this preseason day football right now. But the important thing is great news for Brian. He is headed home. Oh! And I know that he wanted to be here. I know he wanted to talk about all the wide receivers and how, man, Camden Brown needs a big game tonight. But this is going to be fun. I'm excited to be here with you. Pre-game party. Let's go ahead and go ahead and knock this thing out of the park, man.
Yeah, it is pretty special.
Nosebleed seats pre-game takeover.
Yeah, it is exciting. And I do just want to thank you for all the work that you put in behind the scenes to make sure that Tito's Handmade Vodka was powering.
You're welcome.
This season's pregame show. It is a wonderful time. We're loaded, as always, as we are now under 3 hours to kick off preseason game number 2, 877-881-1053. Behind enemy lines with former Cowboys.com media member Danny Surek, who is now the Christy Scales for the Arizona Cardinals. So she's going to be hopping on with us
Danny.
Here in just a few minutes. We have Bobby Belt, who's going to be live in studio as we go inside the Star. Coming up at the end of this hour, Babe Laufenberg, Christy Scales, and then we'll hear from Shoddy and Brad Sham, and hopefully Jerry Jones as well, right there in the owner's box. So let's get this party started, ladies and gentlemen. What are we looking for tonight? How are we feeling? My first question to you, right when you walked in here before we turned the microphones on, are we even going to see Jaden Blue tonight?
I know. I don't know. And we got issues here with who's going to end up being your running back, too. I've been really thinking they might make a move here, whether that's they see somebody that gets released and they like that player. Maybe they're looking at, I mean, I think tonight, when you look at the team that you're playing, Arizona has one of the deepest depth charts in all of the National Football League when it comes to running back. I mean, when James Conner, Tyler Algier, they drafted Jeremiah Love, Trey Benson's a former second-round pick, who I loved coming out of Florida State. You got Bam Knight. So this could actually be, if you're a Cowboy fan, nice scouting for that Arizona running back room. That might be somebody that you want to pluck off and add to your roster because you got Blue dealing with that shoulder. You got a chest injury for Phil Maffa. Neither of these guys has really seized the moment here and said, we're better than Malik Davis. Malik Davis looked like the best running back on the field last week. So I said it with Brian in the postgame, Eric, and I don't know how you feel about it. I think the issue with Malik Davis is I wonder if they're feeling the durability is a problem for him. Because the one real game he got to start when Javonte Williams got hurt against Washington, he carries the load, and then he gets so beat up, he's got to miss the following week against the Giants. So I think Malik Davis, he's been a heck of a player, and he makes the most of every opportunity he gets. But I do wonder if he's just one of these guys that gets beat up, and they feel like, hey, small doses, that's kind of the best thing for Malik Davis. Is he really going to be able to be a running back, too, that can come in and take series away from Javonte Williams, or if something happens to Williams, step up and be able to carry the rock for a couple of weeks? I don't know if they have the running back, too, on the roster right now. Big night for Izzy Abanikanda.
Yes, yeah, same for him as well. And it looks like, I mean, especially if Blue is going to be out, I'm hoping that at least Maffa will be able to get out there and show us a little something, because he's got plenty to prove. But yeah, the Malik Davis stuff, he's definitely underrated and disrespected to some extent. But I think in a perfect world, he's your running back 3, and you're like, man, you feel awesome about this. He's kind of that tweener 2, and I think they want some juice out of that number 2 spot that can be a little bit more of a compliment to what Javonte Williams brings you, which is more of your grinded out back. And so having a guy like Blue in the perfect world was mature and healthy and didn't fumble the football and had just run-of-the-mill human vision and could take this spot, because he's got the speed and the home run threat, the pass catching, all of that kind of stuff. But there's so much that he's missing the boat on right now that unfortunately he's not really risen to the occasion. So yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're looking at Arizona tonight to find out who our real running back 2 is going to be. Because they do have a stable of guys, as you mentioned. We can get Danny Surek to tell us who's going to be the guy that the Cowboys can either trade for or pick up.
Who's the odd man out there in Arizona, Danny?
When we go behind enemy lines here in just a few minutes. But I know Broadus had been talking about Milton probably getting the start tonight. Sure. And so I would imagine that is probably going to be the case with Sam Howell getting the start in the first half last week. But Milton was solid. He really was. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him once again. Pro Football Focus had him as a perfect 100% adjusted completion percentage last week. Wow. He went 12 of 15, but they're counting 3 drops on it. So they were basically looking at Milton like, you did exactly what you needed to do.
Impressive.
And he didn't have any BTTs, which we do love. Little big-time throw action, but he only threw the ball 15 times. Those are hard to come by. So hopefully he can show some consistency, because that, of course, has been the knock on Milton throughout his time. You see some flashes. Last week was a longer flash with the 15 dropbacks that he had, but it'll be nice to see him get out there tonight once again. And I still think you're probably only keeping 2 quarterbacks here.
Yeah, and then you'll have your emergency 3. It's going to be a tough call, because I do think whoever they decide to move off of probably gets picked up by somebody. I think Sam Howell looked pretty impressive. I thought he was really good in that late 2-minute drill, finding Michael Trigg along the sidelines, culminating in that touchdown for Camden Brown. Big night for Camden Brown as well. But Joe Milton has taken a lot of strides. I think a lot of it is just the game is slowed down for him. He's talked about it. He knows the playbook. Last year, he's like, I knew about 75-80% of what's going on. Now he just feels in command, really comfortable, knows exactly what Shoddy and Clayton Adams are wanting to try and do, and he's excelling right now. I also think just the accuracy. I mean, that was something for Joe Milton where it was just Jekyll and Hyde. You never really know where the ball's going to end up. I think the timing, the accuracy, the precision that he's been able to throw with, and also some of that anticipation, that he's been able to do, not necessarily waiting to see a guy open, but throwing some guys open. I think Joe Milton's had a really good camp and made some great strides heading into year 2 here in Dallas.
No question about it. Who are you most excited to watch tonight? 877-881-1053. There's a handful of guys, but I think there's really only one answer.
Right?
Let's say it at the same time. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Jay-Sean Barham.
Let's go! Baby. We did it!
He's back! Broadus is saying maybe this guy could end up being your starting Mike linebacker week 1. Well, if that's going to be the case, put on a show tonight, Mr. Barham. And I do think the games are where you're going to get the best out of him. He's done some stuff in practice, which has been nice, but he's such a violent, physical, nasty dude, which you want at the linebacker position. Yes. And so I would imagine that watching him tonight is going to be a ton of fun, and we'll see how much runway they give him in terms of snap count. Could it be at least what what Malachi Lawrence got last week.
Which was a solid amount of snaps.
17 snaps or so. Could we at least see him for one full quarter of football? That would be a ton of fun, and that's a guy who needs it.
Absolutely. I'd love to see him just get the first half.
Let's go.
If you're talking about a guy that's going to end up being your starting linebacker and he's missed basically a week to 2 weeks of practice in camp, you need to get this guy going. He needs to get out there and play.
Yeah, and not only if he's going to be the starter, but just in general, this is a guy that you are going to be depending on. He is going to have a role on Sundays with this team starting in week 1. So, yes, I would love to see him out there. And if the first quarter he's just smacking people and getting it done at a high level, you're like, okay.
He shows you enough.
Maybe. All
right, good job, Barham. Get out of here.
Yeah, maybe go get you one of those Clayton Adams hot dogs and maybe some sunflower seeds. Take that helmet off and just soak in the ambiance of your first NFL action. Cannot wait to see Jayshawn Barham tonight, and not only just his play, but then sort of how they're using him. Are you going to see the mix and match of him as an off-ball linebacker? Is he going to get down towards the line of scrimmage and do some rushing that way because he does have that type of versatility? So watching Jayshawn Barham tonight is going to be a real treat as he makes his Cowboys debut. And then, of course, you have the Camden Browns, the Mingos of the world. That's a huge battle, which apparently, despite everything that Camden Brown has done throughout camp and then last week versus Seattle, he's still not a lock. My guy still got a claw with his fingernails for that roster spot.
He does, and you know what it was Jonathan Mingo on special teams was fantastic last week, and I do think if you're going to be the fifth receiver on this team, you've got to be able to play special teams, and Jonathan Mingo did an excellent job, but also has had his best camp. I mean, I didn't think Mingo had a shot to make this roster. He has really done an impressive job this year, looking the best he ever has in a Cowboy uniform.
Okay, just getting started here on your Cowboys pregame show. It's a Nosebleed Seats takeover with the Willie Boy Zach Wolchuk in for Brian Broad. Send him your well wishes on social. Under 3 hours to kickoff. Let's go live to Arizona behind enemy lines with Danny Sarek. She's the sideline reporter for the Cardinals. She joins us next right here on The Fan.
Are you ready to elevate your barbecue game? Matt Pittman of Meat Church here, the official pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys.
United Healthcare, proud to be the official healthcare sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Learn more at uhc.com.
We're under 2 hours and 45 minutes. Some time. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk some Cardinals and Cowboys football with y'all.
Heck yeah. This is exactly what we want right now. We inch closer and closer to some real football, but decisions have to be made. What's the overall state of the team right now with the new coaching staff and so much new across the board with the Cardinals right now?
The vibes are really high. There's a lot of excitement, especially for players like Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. to have Mike LaFleur as a head coach who has a lot of experience as a wide receivers coach. There's a lot of expectations for this offense to play really well, and that's because they have so many weapons that are capable of doing that. Last year there were so many different changes, a different coach, a different quarterback. Injuries, but you could tell that they had the pieces. Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, arguably the best tight end in the league, and then they go and they draft running back Jeremiah Love. So they have the foundation offensively to really do some damage, and despite looking at Jacoby Brissett's record of 1-11 as a backup last year, again, so many different nuances that led to that, he really is a nice fit for a Mike LaFleur offense. He's big, he's strong, he stays in the pocket, lets his receivers complete their routes, and then he lets it rip. I think where there are still questions that need to be answered are more defensively. That was not a spot the Cardinals put as much attention to when it comes to free agency or draft this year, which does say they believe in the players they have. But overall, it's been really good vibes with this new coaching staff and what this season can bring.
So, Danny, you know this, having covered the Cowboys. We're not going to be seeing many starters on the Cowboys side of things. So what's the order of operations for Arizona tonight?
Same. Won't see many starters. There will be some, though, mostly because, one, someone has to play, and two, especially on the defense, there's a handful of players who will likely start or be in a pretty consistent rotation that are coming off significant injuries last year. In the secondary, Sean Murphy-Bunting didn't play at all last year because of a knee injury, so he's someone that I could expect to play tonight, just kind of getting his legs underneath him. Same goes for cornerback Starling Thomas. Didn't play last year because of an ACL injury. Now, those are players that are still competing for a starting role, but they're definitely in the hunt there. But there's going to be a handful of starters that will play for that purpose. Offensively, though, probably not going to see many. We'll see a lot of Gardner Minshew, the Cardinals' backup they signed this offseason. And then there's still question marks around whether or not rookie quarterback Carson Beck will play. I wouldn't expect that to be the case because we did not see him at practice this week. He threw a couple times after practice, according to the head coach, but from that Hall of Fame game where he looked really good, he ended up on one of the sacks, he ended up having some discomfort in his ribs as the weeks went on, so they're just being careful with him.
What's the latest on the rookie Jeremiah Love and really the rest of the depth in that Arizona running back room? I might be looking to poach somebody who might be available for the Cowboys because we might need a running back too.
That's a really great question. Look, on paper, it's a very deep, high-quality running backs room. Right now, they're already a little banged up. So the news with Jeremiah Love of the high ankle sprain he sustained against the Raiders last week, we will not see him tonight, although surgery is not going to be needed for him. So it's just kind of week to week at this point. Again, I would think just really being cautious with Love from a long-term standpoint. James Conner, who suffered a pretty nasty foot injury early last season, has sporadically been participating throughout training camp, but he hasn't even done 11-on-11 work yet. So I doubt at this point we really see him in the preseason, but we have seen him out at practice doing a lot of individual drills. The question, though, really is still around Trey Benson. Missed most of last season with a knee injury, tried to come back, wasn't able to. We saw him at the start of training camp, and then he had a bit of a flare-up, so we haven't seen Benson in weeks, even doing individual drills. So in terms of the state of the running backs room, there's still question, at least for Conner and Benson health-wise, but they did add a really quality back in Tyler Algier. As a rookie in Atlanta, he had a 1,000-yard campaign season before they drafted Bijan Robinson, and he was a really nice supplemental piece there. So you can see the vision of bringing in Algier and then drafting Love a month later.
Cardinals sideline reporter Danny Sarek with us here on 105.3 The Fan. Josh Sweat is a name I wanted to ask you about, the edge rusher who they brought in from Philadelphia a couple of years ago. Certainly one of the better pass rushers in the league, and there was some talk in the offseason that maybe he wanted to be traded, maybe now that Jonathan Gannon is no longer the head coach. What's the status of Josh Sweat?
That's a great question. We are told he should be ready to go week 1, but we have not seen him yet. It's interesting because Sweat is someone who throughout his career has never really participated in voluntary workouts. So that was not a surprise when he didn't participate with the Cardinals' voluntary OTAs and mini camp this offseason. Then when it was mandatory, he was here, but we didn't see him on the field. And so we've since learned that he's dealing with something with his knee. He still remains on the PUP list, although we keep being told by LaFleur that he's good, he's progressing. They don't expect him to not be ready for week 1, but it's interesting if that's the case, as we're inching closer to September 13th, we haven't seen Sweat yet. When we heard from General Manager Monty Ossenfort a week or so ago, no real confirmation on whether or not Sweat did request a trade. We were just told that the Cardinals are happy to have him, they want him here, and they need him. He had a dozen sacks last year, and he was really their only formidable pass rusher. So they, one, need to have him out on the field, and two, they need a lot more from the players around him.
Which Cardinals tonight do you think need a strong performance? They're on the fringe, maybe. They're trying to make this roster versus the practice squad. Who's somebody that's standing out to you?
I would keep an eye on some offensive linemen. The Cardinals suffered an injury last week. Their rookie Chase Basantis, their backup right guard, who has looked really good, suffered an MCL injury, was carted off. He's done for the year. So there's now some competition for the backup right guard spot, and they have a handful of younger players like a Hayden Connor, a Josh Fryer, John Gaines, players who have shown versatility, but I would keep an eye on an offensive line of who can start to make a name for themselves to be the backup guard there. On defense, going back to the pass rushers, I'd look at BJ Ojulari, somebody who tore his ACL 2 training camps ago, so he only played a handful of games last year by the time he came back and was only just feeling 100% at the start of training camp. So he's someone we've seen play a lot in the preseason as a former high draft pick for the Cardinals. And so I think that's in part one, to get him back with that muscle memory and getting his legs underneath him, and two, to see what he can really do with this new staff. That's someone I would keep an eye on. And then the cornerback battle opposite of Will Johnson, who's going into year 2, looked great as a rookie last year. That's a pretty high competition level. Someone like Max Melton and Denzel Burke out of Ohio State going into year 2. Those two names have kind of really been making a push to be an opposite starter of Johnson, and so I'm curious to see play time and how they look tonight. And then down the depth chart for wide receivers, the top 3 here, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Kendrick Bourne, who they brought in. But there are some open spots underneath them. And players like Jalen Brooks, right, who was with the Cowboys the last couple of years, Simi Fehoko, who's also been with the Cowboys, and the rookie Reggie Virgil. Those are 3 names who have made big-time plays. They've been aggressive. They have found the end zone. And that is another position battle that is really, really heating up that I would keep an eye on tonight.
When you see Simi, tell him we said hello. We got him to sing for us on the nosebleed seats when we were on the nights, and he'll remember because it was something that I think he kind of got his ball.
As long as he doesn't ask me to sing, absolutely.
Don't worry about it. I don't think he's going to do that. I think Simi learned his lesson there. But I did want to ask you about Marvin Harrison Jr., who seemed like a can't-miss prospect coming out of Ohio State. Maybe the results haven't been up to his standard or what he's wanted so far. What is kind of the expectation surrounding Marvin Harrison Jr. going into this year?
He has to perform. There's no other way around it. We have seen flashes, but it hasn't been consistent. Now, in part, injuries to quarterbacks early on his time here. And then last year, he suffered a significant amount of different injuries, some of them kind of freak injuries, like appendicitis, right? Like you don't ever hear that happening. And so he missed a few weeks. And by that point, Harrison dropped all the 12, 14 pounds of muscle he had intentionally put on that offseason to be stronger in those contested catch moments. So it really comes down to consistency. And that's something that he's talked about, is having to have that mental fortitude of understanding he was the 4th overall pick. They chose him here for a reason, and he needs to go and he needs to perform. Now, he has looked good with Brissett. They only played 7 games together last year, and Harrison left 3 of those early hurt. So they don't have as many reps together in a game sense as Michael Wilson does with Brissett, but Harrison and Brissett practice. They are throwing the ball after every practice together. They're constantly in communication, really building that chemistry. I am intrigued to see LaFleur with Harrison because LaFleur has told the media he sees Marvin Harrison Jr. as a Devontae Adams in LA. Big-bodied, Truex receiver who can win at the line of scrimmage, who can win in contested catches. Then you've got Michael Wilson, who's more of that Puka Nacua role, closer to the line of scrimmage, more in the dirty parts of the game, right, run blocking. But I think that those two in particular are going to be used creatively in ways that we haven't seen yet. And I know it's only preseason, right, so everything's vanilla. Nobody's game planning for their opponent. But the receivers have consistently been getting open, and we saw that with the starters in Vegas last week, which is a really good sign.
Behind Enemy Lines with Cardinals sideline reporter Danny Sarek right here on 105.3 The Fan. For fantasy purposes only, would you go Michael Wilson over Marvin Harrison Jr. right now, Danny?
Oh, that is so tough. I will say, look, I'm not here to brag, but I did win both of my fantasy football leagues last year, and one of those was in large part because late in the year I picked up Michael Wilson right before he got hot. Nice. And I'm not going to let that steer you one way or the other. I truly think both are really great options, but I would be remiss if I did not give Michael Wilson credit for helping me win one of my leagues last year.
Outstanding. Congratulations on that, and we appreciate the advice. Is anybody more dominant?
Subtle brag.
No, that's respect right there. Is anybody more dominant in Cardinals camp than Trey McBride?
No. Next question. No. It's so hard. How could you be? How could you be? It's been so spectacular, especially on a personal level, having covered this team since McBride was drafted. He was drafted in an interesting situation. I mean, former general manager Steve Keim had Zach Ertz here, and so McBride wasn't really getting reps, and to be that first draft pick of that draft class because the Cardinals had traded out of the first round to bring Hollywood Brown here, the receiver, it was a high draft pick for someone who wasn't really getting a lot of reps. But as soon as McBride got those opportunities, he ascended from the jump. Doesn't matter which quarterback is throwing the ball his way, doesn't matter how close or far it is in his vicinity, he's coming down with it. He's aggressive, he's got great hands, he's a good route runner, he's improved his run blocking ability. He's just so tough to bring down, and he's always falling forward. He is dragging defenders with him. There's a reason he was number 13 on the NFL's top 100. There's a reason he's part of the exclusive Madden 99 club. He is truly unstoppable, and he set an NFL record for most catches by a tight end in a single season with 126 last year on an offense that was one-dimensional, not scoring touchdowns. Every defense knew the ball was going to go in the air because the run game was non-existent, and they knew it was going to go to 85, and it didn't matter. He is just everything you would want in a true tight end, and I think that the Cardinals are going to continue to benefit with him this year.
The second-year defensive tackle, I guess now he's playing end in this new 3-4, Walter Nolan. I think the Cowboys were very high on him last year during the draft. He, of course, had some injuries his rookie season. What do you think about Walter Nolan heading into this year?
He is so explosive. It is so fun to watch. The Cowboys game last year was when Nolan made his NFL debut. As a rookie, dealt with some injuries, a calf injury, so that was his first game, and he made an impact right away. He only played in 6 games last year, although it was really more like 5.5 because he didn't come back in the second half of that final game because of a knee injury. But when he was on the field, you knew it. And that's what they need to see from him. Now, since then, he's obviously more comfortable with the speed of the game, with this scheme, having now a full off season under his belt. But he also lost some weight, cleaned up his eating habits. He's down 10 pounds. So he was already explosive, and he is only more explosive. I'm not sure that's somebody we will see tonight. It's possible, just because he's only going into year 2 and didn't have a full rookie season. That's someone where I wouldn't really be surprised one way or the other of wanting to get him reps or wanting to really keep him healthy and feeling like you've already seen enough from him. But the Cardinals lost Calais Campbell in free agency this year, and he was their most disruptive defensive lineman last season. So it's on Nolan, really, and then the other players that they brought in, like Roy Lopez and Andrew Billings, who is all 340 pounds that he is listed. But what we've seen from Nolan, just his explosiveness, his ability to get into the backfield, to require double teams, to really make an impact is something this defense is excited for.
Well, Danny, this has been a real treat for us. Thanks so much for giving us some time. Enjoy the game tonight.
I appreciate y'all having me on. Thanks so much. Hey, go Cardinals. Had to throw that one in there, right? I know my family's listening, so I had to throw that one in there.
I love it. Well,
thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks, guys.
There she goes. Cardinals sideline reporter Danny Surek with us here on your Cowboys pregame show. Just under 2.5 hours to kick off. The creators of Buffalo Casino Games bring you Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat. Check out Aristocrat's newest casino game, NFL Super Grand Champions. Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. All right, before we do anything else, we got to go inside the Star and welcome in our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, live in studio. That's next right here on The Fan.
You spent
All right, we're 2 hours and 22 minutes to kick off preseason game number 2. Welcome into your Cowboys pregame show. Inside the Star we go, live in studio. Here he comes, Bobby Belt, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Bob?
Wonderful. How are y'all?
Man, couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. It's nice. We got the Wooly Bully in here, in for Broadus.
Do we question Broadus's toughness at all? No. Like, you start looking at the injuries piling up recently. He had, first it's like an eye thing. Now it's like,
he played through the eye last week.
No. I seem to recall him missing a day. Yeah. So what I'm noticing is
he's got 2 eyes.
He's an always something guy.
Injury prone? Is he going to be injury prone later?
Yeah, it's just he's an always something guy. It's like, oh, what is it now? And so
you're going to discard Broadus like he does Wyatt Langford.
Yeah, Broadus just like James Houston should be getting Broadus' snaps. Just like we should be giving Blake Elliott this opportunity. Well, I love Broadus. I hope he feels better.
No, I know you're a ball buster.
Good news.
Of the highest order. Okay, are you in agreement that Jayshon Barham is the guy you're most excited to watch play football tonight?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he would be way up there. It's a lot of the same stuff that we've been watching, which would be, you want to see how the receiver battle shakes out. You want to see how the quarterbacks play, the running back opportunities. You want to see if some of the corners, some of the guys on defense keep up what they've been doing. But, yeah, I mean, Barham's the guy he's the one that had the most buzz around him that we haven't even gotten an ability to see yet. So he would be up there as probably right at the top.
What about Devin Moore, Bobby? Do you think Devin Moore makes his team?
Well, he was picked in the 4th round. Devin Moore was having a really good camp when he was available. I know there's a thought that 4th rounders are not as untouchable as they once were. I know some people feel like. I mean, this team cut a 4th rounder twice in the last 20 years, I think. It was B.W. Webb, and then they cut Skylar Green his rookie year.
Oh, yeah.
But it's something where...
Hell of a poll.
Devin Moore, LSU, go Tigers.
There you go.
Devin Moore is a guy who was having a pretty good camp, and he's feisty out there, and they really like the ball skills. That's a guy who got hurt a lot, though, and is somebody who gets hurt again here in the training camp. So it can put you behind the 8 ball. It can put you behind other guys in terms of your development and where you're at. And so I understand if somebody might sit there and go, can you afford to do this, especially if you like a bunch of these safeties? But no, I think Devin Moore's here.
How many quarterbacks are we keeping?
I'm guessing if Milton is your 3rd, you're keeping 3. I think if Howell's your 3rd, you're keeping 2.
Ooh, okay.
So Milton's going to be safe no matter what.
I think Milton, I don't think they want to just leave that unless they were to find a trade partner and they just decided they were giving up on it. But I don't think they want to just put Milton on waivers. There's clearly been an interest in trying to develop guys behind Dak. Trey Lance did not work out, but they tried to develop Cooper Rush. They thought they may have had something there. They realized there were limitations. They moved on from that. So I don't know. To me, we've talked about this on the morning show on the station a couple times during the offseason. If Dak misses a week, I probably want Sam Howell starting. If Dak gets hurt in week 3 and he's out for the year, I'd want Joe Milton starting the whole year. And so it just kind of depends on how you want to structure it, what you would want to apply. I think that right now I'd say Joe Milton's ahead of Sam Howell. I don't think Sam Howell played poorly last week. I don't think it was like this big gap between Milton and Howell like I think a lot of people assumed it was. But I would say that Milton's probably ahead of him right now, and I would assume, makes this roster, and it just depends on if he's 2 or 3, and if he's 2, then they keep 2.
I was with you in hearing Nick Eatman throw out the Terrence Steele and the concern. Okay, so
and to be
offensive
fair, he could have been playing it down the middle.
Sure.
But he did mention left as well.
He did, and I think Guyton's had a pretty good camp, but still, there's question marks there about how he's going to perform once the bullets start flying in the regular season. But what do you think the mindset is right now at offensive tackle, and is there really a move that they can go and make?
I don't think there's an easy move they can make, which is why it's concerning that they would be looking for one. Because it's like you kind of know, everybody knows generally who out there is available. Like, it's not quite like Madden where you I'm putting somebody up on the trade block. And then now you simulate and okay, these teams have this one on the block. It's not like a posted block, but everybody's kind of got an idea of who can be had and who can't. And there's not a lot of tackles out there routinely that are available. We talked about this last week. When you talk to NFL coaches, They're like, I remember one telling me, he's like, there's 160 starting jobs in the National Football League at offensive line. There are not 160 good offensive linemen in the National Football League. It's the most talent-starved position that exists in the NFL, even more than quarterback. And when you want to talk about having enough players to fill it out, guys generally don't want to give up players that have something. That's why, as easy as it is for people to say, let's walk away from Terrence Steele in recent years, the Cowboys have said, he doesn't kill us, and he's pretty good in the run game, and so we don't want to just walk away and say, let's roll the dice with a position that's really, really difficult to find. So if they feel like they've got to go make a trade, that means they're probably making a gamble on somebody, and that means it must be really concerning to them. So I thought it was interesting when Nick Eatman said maybe that's a job that could be up for competition through player acquisition, because I don't know how much confidence they would have in Terrence Steele even to get by for a few weeks if they were that concerned that they were willing to go make a deal.
Well, speaking of the big boys, let's go ahead and get the Meat Church menu of the night, 877-881-1053.
I didn't text mine in yet.
I know. I'm glad you're here so you can't screw with us. I do think everybody's going to be fighting for second with Jason Ripple on Twitter. You saw his spread. We'll get to that here in a second. Whether you're a backyard griller, Cowboys tailgater, or Pitmaster Pro, Meat Church has everything you need. Visit meatchurch.com, your ultimate destination for the finest rubs, seasonings, and barbecue supplies. Matt Pittman and Meat Church, the official pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, the offensive line stuff, I mean, that is, we go in and we're all worried about Guyton, and now we might be more concerned about Terrence Steele than we were about the performance of Guyton when we walked into camp. Like, it's extremely frustrating. And you're 100% right with the lack of talent across the board. That's why I don't understand Roger Goodell's trying to expand the sport and add 3-4 more teams or whatever overseas. You don't have enough offensive line talent to go around. You have to invest premium assets in order to get one, or just strike gold with a guy in the middle rounds.
Well, and think about, you have to think about the rarity of what that position is, like what kind of athlete even fits that, where it's like, okay, you need minimum 6'3" to 6'7"
Yeah.
Like, you got to, we narrow the pool already pretty quickly of available people, let alone athletes in the country when you start doing that. And then it's, all right, find me a guy who is over 300 pounds, but like over 300 pounds because he's strong and he's got, it's not just, oh, he's a big, heavy guy. And then you talk about like still having elite level athleticism, all those combinations, and then going, oh, also, he has to be one of the smartest players on the field and understand how to play the position. It's a big ask. Like, it's the rarest like form of ability to find, honestly. And so I get why it's difficult to cover all the positions and why you got to why offensive line becomes almost a unit you're trying to match rather than just find like, oh, let me get 5 really good players. You're just trying to go, let me find players who play well next to each other and have chemistry. So I understand all of that, but Steele has been the perfect example of that for a lot of his career. On his own, he's not going to be, like, if we were to reference Madden again, he's not going to be the highest rated Madden player, right?
It's important.
But he's never going to be the 99 club, but he will be a guy who, within the unit, good run blocker, knows how to duo block, knows how to do these different things here, and won't kill you with the pass blocking. If the quarterback understands how he plays and he's trying to just run somebody upfield and give you some extra time, you can adjust to that and you can develop your offense around it. When some of those traits start slipping, it can be problematic. I'm not fully willing to throw up like the alarm bells yet, just because I know training camp and then you get into games, it can always look different. Good can look bad all of a sudden. Bad can look fine because of, these particular drills just don't highlight his skill set very well as soon as he gets in real game reps. So maybe it turns, maybe it gets better, but their level of concern is troubling, it seems like.
What do you think about running back tonight? I mean, you've got 2 guys that have been banged up in Blue and Maffa, and overall that battle for the spot behind Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Shoddy said this week that it was Malik Davis and Israel Abanikanda had started earning 1 reps. So, I mean, that sounds pretty close to them being above, Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. And then even when Jaden Blue came back, he was the 4th back out there, or whatever, 4th or 5th, whatever it was. So him coming back on the field, he's not in a position, it doesn't sound like, to really compete strongly for that number 2 running back spot. I think he'd have to do something unbelievable here to close out the preseason, and you'd have to start seeing some slipping from Malik Davis. But listen to Brian Schottenheimer talk about Malik Davis this week, and he says, man, he's good at everything. He's good at special teams. He's good at protection. He's good at running the football. He's good at that. Like, they just like he's solid, and they understand exactly what he brings to the table in every single facet of the game. Sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. And then you've got a guy like Blue who has all the sort of traits you look for at the position and just has not been able to put it together yet, has not been able to check the boxes for them in terms of being a pro the way that they want. And it's something where I do think we're starting to look at, is he competing for the number 2 spot or is he competing for a roster spot?
What about the wide receiver stuff? I mean, the Camden Brown, Mingo situation. Can you keep both of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, I'm picking Camden Brown because I know what Jonathan Mingo is. Like, even if he performs better, I still know what he is. Like, and that's going to be extremely limited. Camden Brown, at least there's excitement there. It was Brad Sham. I've quoted it all week. Brad Sham telling you guys last week in the postgame show, I think if you don't have Camden Brown on the roster, you have to explain that to your quarterback. That matters because Dennis Houston ended up on the opening game roster one year because Dak said he needs to be here. So I think that Camden Brown should be on. I think he's done everything. You can't say it's a meritocracy or go out there and earn your spot and talk about compete, and then reasonably tell people that Camden Brown didn't make it. Like, no matter how well Jonathan Mingo has done, and he's performed better.
He has.
He did nothing over the summer. He did nothing to flash at OTAs or minicamp. Beginning of training camp, did a little something, has gotten better as things have gone on, has had a good camp. I don't think if you can reasonably pitch your compete mantra to everybody, I think you lose a lot of credibility if you say, down to this last spot, Mingo. I think then people go, oh, it's still football politics at the end of the game.
What other positions do you think are going to be the most difficult decisions? Like in post game, safety. You know, I got 6 safeties here that I'd like to keep around right now. But then where are you going to go short on some other spots? Corner? Do they have 5 good corners on the team right now? Like, where are some positions that maybe you're looking at tonight to say, okay, this could really help the decision making for who makes this 53?
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily think they need 5 good corners. And I know that sounds negligent or reckless, but it's because of the idea of what the safeties are. So Thompson has ability to play a nickel. They think Locke has a little bit of ability to play a nickel. They clearly think Downs. Those function as 3 nickel corners right there. And so then if you've got 3 guys who can play outside, then you feel like, okay, that's 6 players right there. That's 6 corners or 6 guys who have the ability to do that. And that's a big part of how they've built this defense. They want this defense to be, it's 11 players that are on the field that combined can look like 18 in a million different formations because they can all shift and do different things. Thompson has multiplicity. You've got corners who can play inside or outside. You've got linebackers who can play linebacker or edge like Barham. You've got Gary who can stand up edge 3-4 or then put his hand in the dirt 4-3 or even on third down situations in a 4-3 look, go inside and play defensive tackle. Like, there are all these different things you have and these different skill sets you have that can really make it difficult to disguise things. And the idea being we can make, like I said, 11 players look like 18 because of how they all shift around to do things. But yeah, I think in general, it's going to be a question of how does the receiver room shake out? Who do you want to expose in the running back room? And then, yeah, a lot of the secondary is going to be tough for them to cut down, I think, because especially that's Christian Parker's area of expertise. He works on the secondary, and he's going to have something really particular in mind. You're going to have to check the boxes he wants.
One of the guys from the draft class that I think has flown under the radar is LT Overton on the defensive line. Where are you at with his development, what you saw from him last week, and has he surprised you a little bit? I guess being more of an interior guy as opposed to an edge guy like he was in college. The pass rush is better than I thought as an interior player.
He's so strong. He's like so powerful. And yeah, obviously the thing with him was trying to figure out some of the push he can get in the pass rush because he was thought of as being a guy who could play against the run. But he was one that I thought had, outside of Downs, just like walking in and starting, he was one of the ones who I thought day 3 had the best shot to actually get starting reps at some point. He was a little anonymous, like in camp leading up to the preseason game. I didn't notice him very much whenever we were out there in Oxnard and watching him practice, but he's somebody who I just think given what they need on the defensive line, given the players that they have, the personnel that they have, and what he's ready to do and some of his big game experience and big program experience, I would assume that he would be somebody who could step in and play acceptable level NFL starting capability in a 3-4 defense along the front. So he's somebody who I think could step in and do that. I don't know that he's ever going to flash and he's going to be like, oh my gosh, look at LT Overton just wreck and shop. But he's somebody who I think
solid.
Yeah, just steady.
Good player.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think steady is probably the projection for, and it's a pretty solid one. I think that's probably the most likely projection for who he is as a rookie and probably who he is 10 years from now.
Yeah, especially if he can give you a little interior pass rush, because outside of Quinnen Williams and then Kenny Clark, it kind of feels desolate when it comes to the big boys that you have that can get consistent pressure. Now, some of the Dunns and the Gilliams, like these guys have
Jay
showed.
Toia, Zach's guy.
Yeah, Toia.
Probably not going to make the team.
Unfortunately, he's going to
Haka brethren.
Haka his way right out of that building, which is disappointing. But so Overton.
I'm Samoan, bro.
Overton is definitely a guy I'm excited to see tonight. Hopefully, he can continue to make some noise there, especially as a pass rusher. 214, Christian Webb in Addison, 2 racks of ribs on his brisket smoker.
Love a couple racks.
God, I know you do.
And but I don't think anybody's beating Jason Ripple right now. He's got the Tito's handmade vodka. Okay, So
delicious.
he's keeping it in the family. And is that a smoked chicken I'm looking at here? Am I looking at burnt ends? Yes, I am. Mac and cheese. Is that some elote brisket corn that he's got going, and then some smoked, what I believe to be jalapeno cheddar sausage?
Do you have any process that you go through to verify that these haven't been like AI generated images? I'm not doubting Jason, but just for the future from my burner accounts, have you figured out how to tell AI images of the barbecue setup?
The only way I can tell is if it gives you that little thing in the corner that says like AI generated. If you can find a way to crank out some AI without telling you in the bottom left-hand corner that it is AI, I'm running with it.
Do you think
I am taking it at face value, and Ripple right now, he is in playoff mode, dude. That is so next level.
Delicious.
For preseason. This is a guy who's ready to dominate.
Are you the Mendoza line of being able to identify AI? Like, you're just below what's acceptable. Like, if Eric believes it, then we probably need to be a little bit more.
They're doing great things, though, man.
I will run with it. How are you holding up, by the way, Wolchuk? Got a little stuffy going?
Yes, I do.
Got a little
I hear
stuffy
you
stuff?
sound a little Micah-like with the stuffy sinuses today.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I'm proud of you for fighting through.
It's
dude.
okay. We're good.
At least somebody fought through to be here today.
We're here. Don't worry about it.
A little preseason adversity. Wolchuk is in dominant form as well. But please let us know. Shout out to Christian. He's the only one that's giving us the goods with the 2 racks of ribs tonight, getting ready for some preseason football. Bob, we love you. Thank you for the time. Enjoy the game, and we cannot wait to hear you at 6 a.m. on Monday.
I love you all.
There he goes, Cowboys insider Bobby Belt right here on your Cowboys pregame show. We are 2 hours and 4 minutes to kick off. Let's go around the NFL camps. We got some more Cowboys action for you. And the craziest thing going on in the league right now with one individual and a fan base. I'll tell you what it is next right here on The Fan.
They'll know.
Dallas Cowboys pregame show continues on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Brought to you by
Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. Blockchain.com. Invest like an icon with Blockchain.com. Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
All right, we're under 2 hours to kick off here on your Cowboys pregame show. Great to have you in. 877-881-1053, preseason game number 2. Shout out to my guy, my brother, Zach Wolchuk, who is taking over for Broadus today. Send your well wishes and your prayers over to Broadus. It looks like he is out of the hospital and feeling a fair amount better. I mean, he was feeling pretty good on that morphine yesterday.
He was,
when he checked in with us.
When he texted us and said, "Love you guys," I knew he was feeling good.
Yeah. He hadn't had something like that coursing through his veins in quite some time. So he was floating a little bit, and he was enjoying himself. He said the nurses were fantastic. Everybody was taking care of him at a high level. I'm sure he's parking it on a recliner in the crib and just jotting down notes for 3 hours tonight during this Cowboys football game. And we do got to give Broadus a little bit of credit because he was one of the guys who was voicing non-first round pick analysis for Sonny Styles, who ends up going in the top 10 to the Commanders.
Yeah.
Linebacker out of Ohio State. Seems like the Commanders fans cannot stand this dude right now through 2 games of preseason football. Last week versus Miami, just looking a little bit lost. There was a play where a fullback came screaming down the B gap, and they met, and Sonny Styles just straight up collapsed. It was not a good look. And there was like a side-by-side because you had Arvell Reese, also out of Ohio State, playing off-ball linebacker for the Giants. And in their first preseason game versus, I think it was the Vikings, it was the same kind of play. It's a fullback coming downhill to kick out a linebacker. That linebacker was Arvell Reese, and Reese just completely annihilates this fullback.
Yeah.
Kind of like Overshone did to Hunter Lipke when we were out in Oxnard.
What a hit that was.
It was amazing. And so Arvell Reese looking a little bit more like the physical part. Sonny Styles week 1, not good. And then today versus Detroit, couple of plays there for sure where he looks out of sorts and out of place. It's obviously extremely early, but the Commanders fans, they're already doing some second-guess specials. Man, what would this defense look like if we would have just taken Caleb Downs? Well, sorry about you, because he's here with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, not sorry about that. Screw you guys. He's ours.
He is.
We're not giving him back.
No, we don't plan to. That's for sure. And
with Styles, it's one of those where we talked about it leading up to the whole draft. He's a converted safety. He's only played linebacker for a couple of years. His head's swimming out there. You can clearly tell that he's not the game speed. I think is not one where he's up to the task yet. And I still think Sonny Styles is going to end up being a good player. But right now, it's certainly not up to the standard and the expectation that Washington and their fans had, but it's the knee-jerk overreaction season. I mean, if we were to go back and watch Micah's first game when he really was playing off-ball linebacker against Brady in the Bucs in that opener, like Micah's looking around, his head swimming out there. So it's just going to take Sonny some time. I still think Sonny Styles is going to end up being pretty good.
Heck of an athlete, but yeah, he's not a natural linebacker who's been playing it for the last 15 years all throughout his football life. So it's an adjustment, but it is fun to see Commanders fans get a little bit butthurt.
Well, their offensive line has got awful. With Jaden Daniels, 3 snaps, 1 sack. They're like, we got to get him the hell out of here.
Yeah. Take care of Jaden Daniels, Commanders. Without Laramie Tunsil, and that offensive line was already a bit of a question mark in general, which for the most part across the league, we talked about this with Bobby, like everybody's got some level of offensive line questions for the most part. Even a team like the Eagles, who just a couple of years ago was, oh my gosh, the best thing we've seen since maybe the Cowboys and their offensive line in the heyday with Dak and Zeke and them. But now even the Eagles have some giant questions when it comes to their offensive line. So it happens, but the Laramie Tunsil issue for the Commanders, that's going to be problematic. So as much as we are really frustrated with what's going on with Terrence Steele and still have some questions about the overall quality of Guyton, though we're thankful that he's at least stayed healthy throughout his first training camp, I believe, of his career, where he's actually able to stay on the field and get the necessary work. So everybody's got some offensive line questions, and Jaden Daniels, 3 snaps, 1 sack. That's a bad look. That is a bad look. Now, speaking of bad looks, do you see what's going on in Cleveland right now? Which, of course, there's always just some level of sewage seeping out of that organization.
It's a factory of sadness there in Cleveland.
Yeah, and their quarterback room has been very much talked about over the last couple of years. You have Shedeur in there. You have Deshaun Watson in the single worst contract/trade, perhaps in sports history, hold for Luka Doncic when it comes to that trade. But Deshaun Watson, and they're still in a battle. Nobody totally knows who exactly is going to be the starter for them. But he gets booed every time he walks on the field in Cleveland. He gets booed by the home fan base, and he is annoyed by it. After the game today, after being booed once again by the Browns fans, he says, quote, "It has nothing to do with performance." First of all, come on. It does.
He's bad.
There is some level of your garbage performance that is creating some of these boos. Now, he goes on to say it's a little more personal than that. It's a disrespectful thing. Now, yes, there is also a large personal element to the fact that everyone absolutely hates Deshaun Watson, and nobody really wants him on their team when it comes to his history and sort of the person that he is, or at least was. He says, "Last time I played on this field, I tore my Achilles, and that same fan base, they cheered." So you now have quarterback versus fan base. And you see fan base versus quarterback sometimes, and that's usually just simply you're not good, and so we're going to boo you, and we hate you, and we can't wait for you to be out of here because you're not good, and I want my team to be good, and if my team is going to be anywhere close to it, my quarterback needs to be good. Deshaun Watson is the perfect storm of both, where they hate him as a person, and he's done nothing in the way of on-field performance to alleviate some of that hate. And so I don't know how this ends up going here, where you have the quarterback calling out the fan base at the podium. Nobody wants him there. He doesn't want to be there. They don't want him there, but they paid him, and it's just a giant disaster.
Yeah, that's Shedeur Sanders' job. I think Deshaun Watson today, just with that comment alone, you can't start him. And I think for Todd Monken, that decision's been made. And on the field, he looked awful. Shedeur looked solid today. I think Shedeur was like 9 of 11. He looked okay. I mean, we saw last week he was missing some open receivers, but then he had some really good throws. But Deshaun Watson, I think, was 5 of 12 with an interception. And he had a 3rd down and 10 pass that like barely makes it across the line of scrimmage. He's dirting the football. So not only from an on-field perspective, but also just the kind of guy that clearly doesn't seem like a guy who's a leader of men in an organization, that clearly there's a rift there. I mean, I was a little bit surprised that he was still there. They probably just didn't have another option.
No.
With the dead money that's going to be on there, and it's like you can't trade him, so we just got to keep him on our roster. But that's a terrible situation. You've got basically a player that nobody wants on the team. He doesn't want to be there, exactly what you said. And I think today with those comments, that's a battle you just don't want to pick. I do agree with him. I don't care how much you hate a guy. I don't think you should cheer when a player gets hurt. Obviously, we hate the Eagle fans for what they did with Michael Irvin when he was laying on the turf there at the vet and he breaks his neck, right? And they're cheering because Michael Irvin's hurt and he's out of the game. That's disrespectful. It's disgusting behavior. But you don't pick a fan. I'll fight with the fans, man. And for Deshaun Watson, I think he just eliminated himself from that competition.
Well, and he has no self-awareness. He has no self-awareness for why these boos are taking place. Not only are you not any good, and your lowlights are super low, like they're laughable, football follies level bad moments, and then very little in the way of good. But then for him to not register, like, yeah, this is kind of the bed I made for myself, and I do have to sleep in it. And if for some reason I could find a way to actually be good, maybe the fan base would temper down some of that booing. But for him to act like so surprised, like I can't, like it's personal. I don't know what it is.
Clearly.
What did I ever do?
Very personal.
To these people that would make them boo me like this and be so disrespectful to me. It's pretty insane where we are in the Deshaun Watson story arc. Also insane, do you know who Brenda Song is?
Former Disney Channel?
Yes.
She's a big-time Rams fan. I think she's married to Macaulay Culkin.
She is. Kevin McAllister. And Brenda Song, famous for, I believe, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and many other things, I guess, on Disney. She has proven over the course of the last couple of years that she really is a diehard sports fan. And you can see her sitting courtside at I believe, Clippers or Lakers games. And then she's a big Rams fan.
Right.
And she's not just, I put the jersey on and have a good time, Rams fan. She's like legit.
She knows ball.
She can talk ball. And so they have actually granted her the ability for today's game, and I got to see when exactly. I think it's coming up here in no, it already took place versus the Rams. She was able to do some of the broadcast. Like she was a part of the play-by-play broadcast.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
For the Rams preseason game. So
good for her. That's awesome.
It was during the third quarter of the game, and I can't wait to perhaps hear some clips of this for her or from her, because that is a pretty awesome deal that she gets the nod there. Like the football world is saying, yes, we have respect for your ball and knowledge enough. Hop in the booth here. Here's a headset. Break it down for us. Tell us about this third stringer who you want to make the football team, whoever the Camden Brown is of the Rams. She's breaking it down, so that's pretty exciting.
Big Ty Simpson fan.
Now, I know you are as bullish on Caleb Downs as anyone, but what do you think of this Doug Clawson bold prediction for Caleb Downs this season?
Okay.
He is a researcher and writer for CBS Sports. He actually does have some really good nuggets when it comes to like different stats of the day or whatever when it comes to football. He's a good follow on Twitter.
So we respect Doug, because there's some CBS Sports stuff that comes out. It's like, I don't know about this one.
He says, bold prediction, this was 6 hours ago on Twitter. Caleb Downs will be the first player in 24 years to lead his team in tackles, sacks, and interceptions.
Wow.
The last person to do that was Joey Porter for the Steelers in 2002.
Damn.
Okay? I mean, that is, and I don't know if this is that a Caleb Downs tweet or is that a Cowboys defense tweet where he's saying, no one's going to get to the quarterback and no one's going to really tackle people or get their hands on footballs and interceptions.
The sacks.
So Caleb Downs.
That's the one.
How many sacks would Caleb Downs have to lead the team in sacks? He would have to have
8 at least.
I would think a minimum of 8 sacks.
Yeah, and I do think he's going to go ahead and get some. I mean, the blitzing, the ability around the line of scrimmage, he's a phenomenal player. That's why I'm happy to see Savone Revel step up here, because in a perfect world, I'd love Bland and Revel to play outside and nickel, and then you can really have Kobe Durant move. So that way, Caleb Downs can just be a chess piece to do whatever the heck you want with him. But I can't imagine he leads the Cowboys in sacks. If he does, I mean, credit to Caleb Downs, but I do think that's more of a detriment to what they've got on the roster. You got Quentin Williams, who's had 12 sacks in his career. I mean, Vaughn just had 9 last year. I know Brian's not exactly high on what Vaughn can do. I think Vaughn can come in here and get you maybe 7, 8 sacks again. Rashawn Gary averages about 8 every year throughout his career. So I'd be pretty stunned if he led the Cowboys in sacks, but I do think Caleb Downs, safeties, he might be the first safety to win Rookie of the Year in 30 years. I think we got to go back a ways, like to the 90s, before we get to a safety that's won Defensive Rookie of the Year. That doesn't happen often. So for Caleb Downs, even to be in that conversation, if he does that, you got to be looking at a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I do think leading the team in tackles is pretty realistic with how often he's going to be on the field and then his alignment on the field. You see safeties that can rack up a ton of tackles, and he's a guy that will do a lot of his work in the box and in and around the line of scrimmage. So leading the team in tackles, I think, is a fair prediction. And maybe even the interceptions.
Yeah.
But gosh dang, the sacks would be pretty unbelievable. What a season from Joey Porter in 2002. I need to go look at some of those numbers and see exactly what he did. How impressive was that? Because I can't imagine the Steelers' defense was bad at that time. So nonetheless, that's a hell of a Doug Clawson Caleb Downs' bold prediction for the season. You mentioned Savone Revel. Do you care to watch him play anymore in the preseason, or are you pretty much solid with where he's at?
I'd still like to see him play a little bit. You have him out there with a series or two. I still think he needs to play. I think he needs to build confidence, but he doesn't need to be. I mean, I do think having him somewhat limited on a snap count. I don't know if he needs to play 17 snaps if he goes out there and has a good series, but I am impressed with Savone Revel, and he looks healthy. We got to visit with him out there in Oxnard. He was an outstanding guest. I do think him and Christian Parker in this new system, it's boding well for him. And what he was able to do, I thought he had a really good game last week in Seattle, but I'd like to see him out there for a little bit.
All right, it's your Cowboys pregame show here on 105.3 The Fan, brought to you by Reliant. Reliant is proud to power the home of the Dallas Cowboys and the homes of Cowboys fans across Texas. Reliant, the official energy provider of the Dallas Cowboys. We are under an hour and 45 minutes to kick off. Let's go live to Arizona and welcome in Babe Laufenberg next right here on The Fan.
Just steps from AT&T Stadium, the all-new National Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington brings America's stories of courage and service to life. Walk through immersive exhibits, rescue wounded soldiers aboard a VR Huey rescue mission, interview Medal of Honor recipients, and hear their incredibly true stories firsthand. Real people, real stories, real close. This is the Medal of Honor. Plan your visit today at mohmuseum.org.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. As a Yeti ambassador and the official pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys, I proudly represent two of the toughest brands out there. My Yeti coolers are perfect for hot holding barbecue like smoked brisket and ribs. Customized with a Cowboys star,
Welcome in our buddy Babe Laufenberg. He's been in Oxnard for the last couple of weeks, boots on the ground representing for us here at 105.3 The Fan. And Babe had quite the interesting interaction with head coach Brian Schottenheimer earlier this week.
You struggle early in a game, there's usually reasons for it. It's usually hat placement, it's pad level. I think Babe jinxed us on that one a little bit with his question last week. Are you concerned about the pad level of the offensive line? Yes, but we figured it out.
How about that? The jinxer, Babe Laufenberg, with us here on The Fan.
Can I tell you something? Number one, I truly do not believe in jinxes. I really don't. But it was last week I had said, are you concerned with the pad level? Because you have so many walkthroughs now as constituted by the CBA. You can't be in pads, you can't hit. And walkthroughs, just for the folks listening, they're literally that. You are walking through. So the running back comes up, there's a blitz, you walk over, you're standing straight up, you put your hands on the guy kind of, I got him. And then the game comes, and you're playing high. And as we all know, low man wins in football. And that's what happened to the offensive line last week in that first half with Seattle. Seattle's pad level was lower than the Cowboys' offensive lineman's pad level, and they dominated the line of scrimmage. It was that simple. So, hey, instead of saying you jinxed me, you should have said, Babe, you know what? We took your advice. And we really worked on our pad level, but sounds like they did this past week.
So in an alternate universe, Babe Laufenberg on a baseball broadcast would talk about a no-hitter in real time. Is that right?
Well, I would, but I know I'd take a lot of heat from people, but yeah, absolutely I would. Guy's got a no-hitter going.
Yeah, it's important.
We say the guy's given up 2 hits, right? We don't worry about the third hit.
No.
But there is baseball, as you guys know, it's got all those unwritten rules that you can't do. You can't bunt on a guy, or else you're going to get hit in the head with the next pitch. So
yeah, so much.
And I played a little baseball, but I don't buy into all that stuff.
Have you been guilty of the broadcaster's jinx with a field goal before? Like, oh, this guy's been whether it's Dan Bailey or whoever it was, he hasn't mixed an extra point and then pointing.
Well, I always think it's important when a guy goes out there to give context to what he's about to do. If he hasn't missed from 50-plus yards, you want to point that out and say, hey, this guy has had 5 50-plus yard field goals, whoever the guy is. You want to point that out to your audience. Now, if he misses, I don't think, coaches now have that transmitter that goes into the quarterback's helmet, right, where they can talk into the helmet and give him the play. I don't think that kicker is listening to our broadcast.
No, I don't think he is either. That'd be quite the revelation if he was locked in on the Odyssey app. So
wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if, hey, why'd you miss the kick? Well, I was listening to Brad and Babe, and they mentioned I'd made 5 in a row, and I kind of panicked.
I started overthinking it, and it just didn't go well. Babe, when it comes to these quarterbacks, though, Joe Milton and Sam Howell, I thought both looked pretty good last week against Seattle. Do you think either one has the edge right now in the battle for QB2?
It's a good question. I think Sam Howell has the edge. I will say this, at the end of the game last week, I said to Brad, Sam Howell did nothing to hurt himself in that game. He played well. But I thought Joe Milton did a lot to help himself. He really looked like, I don't want to say a different quarterback, and that's to be expected, He's only a third-year player. He hasn't played a lot. Second year in the offense. Obviously, he was in New England his rookie year. But now, can you stack that good game on another good game today and then another good game on Friday against New Orleans? But here's my question. Are you keeping 3 quarterbacks? I think I am.
Are you? Okay. I am. Well, you love Sam Howell, so you got some bias to you here, Babe, don't you?
Well,
you love your Sammy.
I do love Sammy, but it's a bias, based on watching him play. And I do think he is the more ready guy to come in and play for Dak, if Dak were obviously to go down at some point. But I don't want to give up on Joe Milton. We all know his athletic ability. The arm is as good as any arm I've ever seen in the NFL. And he can run. So you want to develop that guy. So, I always hate this too. To me, it's more important to keep that quarterback if you think he's got potential to one day be a good player for you than it is to keep the 7th linebacker, right? Mm-hmm. Or the 9th defensive lineman. that guy's not going to win you games, but this quarterback may win you games down the road.
Yeah, the upside. I totally get it. And they invested, obviously, a pick in him when it comes to the trade. So all makes sense to me. Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. Now, you've been out there, obviously, for a couple of weeks. You saw the preseason game. You've been up close and personal with this team now. Are you starting to feel more optimistic about what this defense could be?
I am. And you kind of got to temper it a little bit. Again, Christian Parker is the next Bill Belichick. We know that. Caleb Downs is getting fitted for the gold jacket already. We know that. So you got to let him go out and play, and you got to let the season progress and see what happens. But I will say, I mean, look, the defense has totally changed. I don't mean just the schematics of it, the players. They're not. I mean, Rashawn Gary, just go up and down the list, and they're better at virtually every position this year than they were last year. And I'll include the 2 defensive tackles. Remember, Kenny Clark got here 6 days before the start of the season last year. Quinton Williams came during the season. So now they have that whole offseason behind them, being around, being in this system. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason for hope. Now, are they going to be the number 1 defense in the NFL this year? No. I do think they're still looking for a pass rusher. We can discuss Von Miller if you like, but the good teams all have that great pass rush. You know, Denver led the NFL in sacks last year, and they were in the AFC Championship game. Seattle right up at the top. So I'm looking for that pass rush to pick up.
Yeah, so I take it you liked the Von Miller signing. You think he can give this defense a little something?
You know, we all get excited about the name on the back of the jersey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, if we know the guy, we love as fans. Oh, we got Von Miller. It's like, well, but you got 37-year-old Von Miller. Now, I do think guys like that, I always say certain players, they just know how to play the game, right? I mean, to me, Jordan Lewis was that guy. He just knew how to play the game. I think Jalen Thompson, the safety they acquired from Arizona, I think he knows how to play the game, which sounds silly. You're like, well, these are NFL players. They all know how to play the game. Sean Lee knew how to play the game. So Von Miller knows how to play the game. So he's definitely going to be a good addition, but again, he's not going to be your Micah Parsons. He's not going to be your Myles Garrett. 10 years ago, yes. At 37, no.
Babe, when it comes to the offensive line, just going back to the question that you had with Shoddy, but the offensive tackle concerns, and then maybe Nate Thomas not playing as well as he did a year ago when he had a really strong camp. Well, what are your thoughts heading into tonight with the offensive line?
Yeah, it's very interesting to me, and I don't have the answer, but the Terrence Steele thing seems to be a little wonky to me. Does it to you guys?
Oh, for
it's
sure.
Not like,
concerning.
It's not like they just set him over there, and he's been the starter for 3 years, but it's like they're kind of trying to replace him. And, hey, you're always trying to replace everybody, right? You're trying to get better at every position. But, you know, they're certainly looking for a guy. And what I do chuckle about a little bit, guys, is when you're looking for a swing tackle, right? And, well, we got to get a swing tackle. Think about that guy. He's not good enough to be in your starting lineup, and now he's got to work at left tackle and right tackle, right? And so he's not going to be good at either of those because he doesn't get all the work at left tackle or get all the work at right tackle. And obviously they played a little musical chairs, as I'm sure you guys have addressed or will address today with the tackle situation. But yeah, they seem to be looking there.
No question about it. It's Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. How about this wide receiver group? How fun was it watching Camden Brown play football last week?
Well, you know what made it so fun was you saw it in practice. I mean, you saw enough in practice where I always say you can't watch everything. People ask me, hey, how's this guy doing? How's that guy doing? You know, they're on 2 fields. One's working up at this goal line, the other's at the other goal line. So, but always I look up and I see on the other field, I see a guy making a crazy catch. And I'm like, gosh, who was that? And I'm like, oh, number 6. Camden Brown. Okay, free agent, Georgia Southern. Next day you're at practice. Guy makes some phenomenal catch. You look up, oh, geez, that's at number 6 again. So that's what he was doing during camp. And he brought that to the game last week in Seattle. 2 spectacular catches for touchdowns. So, you know, I think it's going to be interesting. He and Jonathan Mingo, and I think we're forgetting, maybe not us, people that follow it, right, every day, you're at camp, whatever, but Anthony Smith, their 7th-round pick, I think he's got a lot of potential. And Brian will tell you, Brian knows this better than anyone, half of the guys at the end, they're getting released, at that bottom of the roster. Some of them are getting released in the sense that they'll pick player A up, he'll be claimed, player B won't be claimed. So you try to work that game a little bit as to who do we think another team will claim that we could then bring the guy back to the practice squad. Now, let me just say this. Camden Brown is not going to get through waivers. If you decide to be cute and say, well, we'll waive him, bring him back to the practice squad. And I know one team will take him. Seattle would jump all over that.
After what he did last week, no question.
Yeah.
Speaking of maybe looking and scouring some other rosters, I was doing this with Arizona and their running back depth. Now, we had Danny Sarek on earlier. They do have some injury concerns with guys like Trey Benson and others buried down that depth chart. But do you think running back's one where maybe they don't have a guy on the roster right now that'll end up being here once the season starts?
And you're talking Cowboys or
Yes,
Arizona?
the Cowboys.
I'm sorry. Cowboys. Do they have a guy? I'm sorry, rephrase that for me. I was thinking Arizona.
At running back, are they looking to maybe add somebody there that's not currently on the team?
Oh, personally, I don't think so. I think you're happy with Malik Davis as your backup guy. The interesting thing is we always talk about a backup. He's a backup. Well, what if Javonte Williams, God forbid, gets hurt in the first game, right? And this happens. Now, are you happy with your backup? Because your backup isn't a backup anymore. He's a starter. But Malik Davis, man, I just like that kid. I'm so impressed with how he's gone about his business, what he's done. I'll give you a quick Malik Davis story from last year. So I talked to him. Remember, they signed him 3 days before, can't remember which preseason game, but maybe it was the last one. And they were out of running backs. And he knew the offense because he had been here. So they signed him. And 3 days later, he had like 15, 18 carries, made the team.
Yeah.
But I asked him what he'd been doing. And he had a regime where he stayed to the training camp schedule. So he did his lifting if he were in training camp, he would have done his lifting. He did his running. He practiced at the time when the Cowboys were practicing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All his schedule was built around if he were in training camp, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to wake up, have a cup of coffee, go to the gym, lift, do some running at the high school. So when he came here, that just impressed me. Let me say that he was ready to go. And he had done that having no idea that was going to happen, right? And no other team had picked him up. And I always liked that, too. He was a guy, he could have been out of the league. If the Cowboys didn't run out of running backs, no one else was signing him, right? Mm-hmm. And here's a guy that may have a 5-6 year NFL career now.
Yeah,
so I'm really happy for him.
It's fantastic. I do love that kind of stuff. Babe Laufenberg with us here. Okay, so how did you score the fights, the big brawls, Saints and Cowboys? Did the Cowboys get the best of them on that one?
Wouldn't it be great if we had Michael Buffer out there with "Let's get ready to rumble"? Because that's what it was. It was, oh, geez.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, coaches hate it. I imagine the owners hate it more because they each got fined $500,000, or the team did, for the fights. And it's just not very productive, as we know. It takes time out of practice. As we saw, Kellen Moore and Brian Schottenheimer were talking about possibly, cutting the thing short, and you don't get any work in. But it was spirited, no doubt about that. And they weren't just fights. They weren't just two guys, pushing and shoving. I mean, they were brawls.
Yeah.
They were brawls. I was moving out. I'm on the sideline, and as you guys know, that sideline, between the sideline and the fence behind it, there's about 10 feet you've got to maneuver. So
tight.
I had my eyes on the field because they can be on that sideline and be on you like that. One time I did, I had to, I think somebody clocked me at like 4.3 as I was trying to run away from that pile. That's how fast I was saying, I don't want any part of this.
Is that Turpin or is that Laufenberg? What's going on?
Oh, gosh.
If you were advising Hunter Lipke, would you tell him to take Von Miller up on his lifetime chicken offer for the jersey number 40?
I can't speak for Hunter Lipke, but I think he's the kind of guy that would say, yeah, you can have this number. He hasn't immortalized it yet.
Not yet.
And I could see him doing that. I think he's the kind of guy, and we see it the way he plays, right? Special teams, fullback, tight end, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. He's the kind of guy that says, just give me a uniform. I don't care. Give me a uniform. Let me play. I'm good.
team player Hunter Lipke. Babe, we appreciate you, man. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll be listening.
Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. There he goes, Babe Laufenberg with us here on your Cowboys pregame show. And NFL Plus is here. How about this? That means no matter where you are, this is how you football. Get live, local, and primetime regular season and postseason games on your phone or tablet, plus game replays and more. And right now, you can get NFL Plus Annual for just $39.99 or NFL Plus Premium Annual for $79.99. That's 20% off for a limited time. Go to NFL.com and start your free trial of NFL Plus today. Offer ends September 21st. We are an hour and 22 minutes to kick off. Let's get the scoop from the best in the business. Christy Scales joins us next right here on The Fan.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. As a Yeti ambassador
continues on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Brought to you by
Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. Blockchain.com. Invest like an icon with Blockchain.com. Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
We're just over an hour and 15 minutes to kick off Cowboys preseason game number 2 right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Let's go live to Arizona and welcome in the best in the business Cowboys sideline reporter, Christy Scales. Christy, how you doing?
I am doing well, and I was just telling some of the young guys on the team how lucky they have it, because those of us who have been around a long time remember when we would have preseason games at the Cardinals in August, and they were at Sun Devil outside, right, at the Arizona State University campus. And so they would do the late kickoffs. In fact, they had one that kicked off at 10 p.m. Central so that it was only 106 instead of 109. So glad to be here at State Farm Stadium under the retractable roof and enjoying the air conditioning. So you will hear no complaints about preseason from me tonight.
Was that a bit of a rude awakening, leaving the beautiful weather of Oxnard and then getting off the plane in Arizona? Did that hit just extremely hard?
So as we land on the team charter and the pilot comes over and welcomes us to Phoenix and says the current temperature is 111. And that was last night about 4:30 Pacific time, and then just now here at the State Farm Stadium on the big scoreboard, it says the outside temperature is 111. Oof. I will say that one thing that happened last week and then again today, because there are so many, not just starters, but some of the backup guys who last week there were 25 players that coaches' decisions were not going to play. Right, the usual suspects. Dak and CD, Pickens, also like Kavonte Turpin, also Hunter Lipke. This week there are 29 players. So the 4 that are added to the list this week that played last week but won't play tonight are Caleb Downs and PJ Locke, so 2 safeties. Von Miller, of course, is ramping up, so he's not going to play. He's here. He was just signing some autographs behind the Cowboys bench. And then TJ Bass, who's your top backup at offensive line. He will not play tonight because they don't need to see any more from those guys. But anyway, last week in the morning before the preseason game, all those guys went and worked out at University of Washington at their practice facility, and then today they went over and worked out at Arizona State there in Tempe at their indoor facility, their bubble. So people think, the starters, and the key backups, they get the day off today, but they already actually put their workout in earlier today.
I love it. No days off. No days off for these Dallas Cowboys. All right, so are we going to get a Joe Milton start tonight, you think? What's the quarterback situation looking like?
Yeah, Milton's going to start and probably play the full first half and give Sam Howell the second half. That's fungible. It could change, but that's the plan going in. And I think the main thing is that Joe Milton played so well in the second half last week and carried it through. It had another good week of practice that he earned the right to go ahead and switch it up and get the start tonight. So let's see if he can build on that momentum. And then, the thing is, there's going to be a big difference tonight in the plays that are being run, and that is because I want to go through some of the guys that are not playing due to injury. Like last week, we didn't get to see Jonathan Bullard, who was a free agent addition at defensive tackle. He's not playing again tonight because of a groin injury. Kelvin Gilliam, another defensive tackle, not playing because of an elbow injury. But here's the 2 guys that you really want evaluations of. The 2 rookie tight ends, Michael Trigg from Baylor and DJ Rogers from TCU, not playing tonight. Michael Trigg with a toe injury and DJ Rogers with an MCL. Well, we know that just like last week, Jake Ferguson and Brevin Spanford aren't playing. Coaches' decisions, we know what they have there. And just like last week, Luke Schoonmaker will play, but it'll be very limited, about 6 to 8 plays. What does that mean? That means that the whole game, you're going to see Zach Kuntz, who's a guy who was added a week into camp, Old Dominion player, actually started his career at Penn State, came off of the UFL season, the Cowboys added into the roster. He's going to be it for the vast majority of this game. Why does that matter? It matters because, what's the big decision? What are you doing at backup running back? Well, when you run a lot of your running plays out of 12 personnel, 12 just means 1 back and 2 tight ends, you're not even going to have 2 tight ends on the field by the middle or end of the first quarter. So can you bring in an extra tackle if it's short yardage, sort of like a jumbo package? Yes, you can, but that's not something that they really practice during the regular season. That's something that is done that's more game plan specific. But, I thought about this and I'm like, how are you going to get an evaluation? And then I thought, well, maybe I'm kind of over-analyzing this. So I talked to Hunter Lipke. I talked to Jake Ferguson. I'm like, what do you guys think? And it's like, we got some good runs out of 11 personnel and stuff like that. Just talked to Will McClay about it. He says, we can still put jumbo out there, and don't be surprised if you see an extra tackle run out there. But there are domino effects, and it's like, we don't need to see these guys. Well, if somebody doesn't play, it affects the other positions and their evaluations, because that's why football is the ultimate team game, right? Not having enough tight ends is going to affect what Brian Schottenheimer has on his call sheet available, even for run plays.
I know we've been curious about the order of operations at running back because they were also dealing with Maffa leaving the game. Jaden Blue's been banged up. Anything you can tell us about that, Christy?
Well, Jaden Blue is going to play tonight. It'll be limited. He probably was going to get about 13 to 17 reps anyway, but he did miss a couple of days of practice this week with the shoulder. Malik Davis will play. He's definitely in the lead at RB2. They know exactly what they have in Malik. And by the way, Malik, he's such a key guy on special teams. In fact, he's the special teams captain tonight. So, and I should say that for offense, Jonathan Mingo, who's really come on the last couple weeks and has gotten praise for special teams as well as having some good practices. He's going to be your captain on offense, and James Houston is going to be your captain on defense. But don't be surprised if you don't see a lot of Blue, just because with that shoulder, again, he was going to be limited anyway, but hopefully he can at least with that shoulder get through the number of snaps that they had planned for him tonight.
Okay, fantastic stuff. We have Christy Scales with us here on The Fan. Now, when it comes to the green dot situation, who's going to be making the calls and the checks defensively tonight?
Really interesting, because one of the players who's available tonight that didn't play last week, who, by the way, 3 different people have told me he's the guy that they're really excited to see tonight, Barham, right? Jayshon Barham, the 3rd-round pick. And so he is going to have green dot duties. Now, last week, there'll also be... So Curtis Robinson will also have a helmet available if he, for green dot duties. Let's see, who else? Same thing with Shamar James, Justin Barron, Langston Patterson, who's a rookie free agent. Of course, only one player on the field can have a green dot at a time. But when I'm trying to ferret out, I'm told that Barham may have it beginning with the first series. So I think that would be very interesting. He's a rookie. You're throwing a lot at him. It'll be his first NFL action, and you give him those responsibilities, whether it's in the first series or any time later in the game. But here's the thing about him. I know that the media thinks that he's, what's a good way to describe? Crusty? I don't think he likes to play, he doesn't like to play the reindeer games with social media and with regular media that other players put up with. But I'm told that behind the scenes, very similar to Caleb Downs, just super dialed in, all football, super high IQ, and just really attentive in meetings and just totally dialed in and very professional in his approach. So glad to hear that, because we know that he, as a physical specimen, wow, he's got the physical abilities and the tools. And so if he's taken that approach and has that kind of football IQ, I'm really excited to see him. And like I say, whether it's scouts or teammates or coaches, he's one of the guys that people are excited to see tonight.
Well, you're 1 for 1 after your Camden Brown nominee last week. That was outstanding stuff, Christy.
Scout side, Christy.
Scout site. Well, here's the thing. So here, I'll give you another couple names. Talking with Kenny Clark. Because you're only going to have 5 defensive tackles available tonight. These young guys are going to get long looks, and he's excited to see LT Overton, right? The kid from Alabama who started his career at Texas A&M, said he's been coming on, so he's hoping that he has a good game tonight. Let me give one that seems out of left field unless you really kind of think about the importance of position group battles. It's not top of mind for media and fans. But when I asked Clayton Adams who he's excited to see tonight, see how they perform, do you want to take a guess at the position group?
O-line?
Yes, Nick Leverett. Who's going to get work at center tonight, because we know that Cooper Beebe isn't playing since the starters aren't. I already mentioned earlier that TJ Bass, even though he's a backup, he's your key backup. They know what they have in him. He's not going to play tonight, so no center for him. So Nick Leverett, and Nick can go a long way in solidifying himself as one of the guys, not just to make the 53-man, but maybe be one of the guys, the 8 offensive linemen who are active on game day.
Christy, you're so unbelievable. We appreciate you so much. You're in midseason form. Have a fantastic game tonight, and we look forward to, of course, catching up with you again next hour.
Okay, thanks, fellas. I'll go track down Jerry.
All right, there we go. Christy Scales, wow, always giving us the scoop. That was a laundry list of fantastic things. The excitement about Barham wearing the green dot, football IQ, so much to be excited for. Preseason game number 2 tonight, and we're just getting started. Just over 60 minutes to kick off now. We're absolutely loaded, as always, in the final hour. We'll hear from Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer. We'll go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones and get you everything you need before Cowboys preseason game number 2 next right here on The Fan.
The tailgate started just as the pick
Del Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Feed your wild side. Tyson Foods. Enjoy Tyson brand Cowboys nuggets and Ballpark brand hot dogs this season. Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiafalo and Brian Broaddus.
And just like that, we are under 60 minutes to kick off here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team, preseason game number 2, Cowboys in Arizona to take on the Cardinals. I'm Eric Chiafalo alongside my brother, the Willie Billy Zach Wolchuk, in for the Super Bowl champion Brian Broaddus tonight. A bit under the weather, so send him some well wishes on social media. But we party on, and we're excited about tonight's game. Lots to get into, Wolchuk. We just got the scoop from Christy Scales, and this is outstanding stuff. Let's get into it. Brought to you by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Dallas Cowboys. So much jumped out when talking with Christy there, and we were wondering, is Jaden Blue going to be playing tonight after he got banged up and missed most of practice this week? He is going to be playing as the battle for running back 2 continues, even though it looks like Malik Davis may have solidified himself there. Malik Davis is the special teams captain tonight. Your offensive captain is Jonathan Mingo. How much does that matter when you start trying to put the pieces together of who's going to make this football team? Your defensive captain is James Houston, a guy we felt like was going to be a lock, but we're all excited to see the debut, the green dot man himself, the rookie, Jayshon Barham.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to watch. I mean, you've heard Brian talk about the possibility that maybe he's in consideration to start. I think you will get a rotation no matter what with him and Overshown. Maybe you can even move Overshown back to weak side some as well. But it's going to be a blast to watch Jayshon Barham. He is a guy that is a havoc type of player. That was some of the stuff that I had in my notes from him out of Michigan. You go back and watch him from Maryland. But he does have a lot of traits that you can see from a Zach Bond, just to reference from how they used him in that Vic Fangio defense to maybe how Christian Parker will want to go ahead and deploy Barham when it comes to not only playing that Mike linebacker, but also blitzing. Well, he's lined up in the middle. Next thing you know, once the snap happens, now he's pressuring off the edge. And the green dot responsibility, that was a big question we had coming into the season. Who's going to have that? How is he communicating? Is he getting everybody lined up? It's going to be a blast to watch him tonight. The other notable omission is Michael Trigg. That is a big bummer with that toe injury. He's not able to go. DJ Rogers, the undrafted rookie tight end out of TCU, also not able to go, dealing with an injury. But Michael Trigg was a player that I thought had a nice game against Seattle, really showed some of the flashes and the talent that we saw coming out of Baylor. The question now is, okay, Schoonmaker, nobody was really pushing him off of this team the first couple of weeks. I thought Trigg did take a nice step, but now missing this game, that is a huge loss for his chances to make the roster. And I've already seen it, and I think there could be something there. I wonder if this ends up being kind of like what happened with Phil Maffa last year. Well, this is kind of like an IR stash. And maybe later on in the season, you can see Michael Trigg possibly end up getting boosted up into the roster. But that way you don't have to you can kind of avoid the practice squad. Can we get him on here? But that's a bummer because I really was hoping Michael Trigg could try and push to make this team.
Huge bummer. I wonder the same thing about the corner out of Florida, Devin Moore, and his injury situation and like how he's been kind of in and out of the training camp lineup there. Would he be a guy they try to just IR stash and make sure you get healthy, that kind of thing? But we can worry about that at a later date. He will be playing tonight, so that is a good thing. But yeah, the Michael Trigg and DJ Rogers, so now you're down to just one tight end. Christy tells us that Scooney's going to get a few snaps like he did last week, maybe one drive worth of snaps, and then it's going to be Zach Kuntz, who they picked up early in training camp. So it's a bunch of Zachs tonight, Zach Wolchuk and Zach Kuntz stepping in and hopefully showing out in a big way for Kuntz, who's going to get all the run, and that's going to be a little bit challenging not being able to run 2 tight end sets throughout the game, but we'll see how that shakes out for Kuntz with Trigg and Rogers both out. Of course, Ferguson, Span, Ford not going to be suiting up in this one, but yeah, the LT Overton stuff as well, the excitement out of him, the rookie out of Alabama, and what he was able to do last week in the interior of the defensive line. Seems like guys are, Kenny Clark shouted him out as being excited for what he's bringing to the table. Clayton Adams has been talking about Nick Leverett, your one of your depth pieces on the offensive line. We're all worried about how the depth of this offensive line is going to look outside of TJ Bass. We all have the Terrence Steele concerns as well when it comes to the starters, but Nick Leverett getting the center run today. No TJ Bass tonight. They're not going to need him at all. They know what they have here with Bass, and he's clearly their best depth piece on the offensive line. But yeah, I think it's all about Barham tonight. Of course, the wide receiver Camden Brown, can he continue to show out the same way he did last week? And he's in a tight competition with Jonathan Mingo. Maybe they can both find a way to make it on this roster, but all eyes there. And then Joe Milton getting the start. He looked pretty good last week.
He did. And this is going to be a fun battle between him and Sam Howell. I thought both had some good moments, but can we continue to see Joe Milton stack good games up? And that will be something to watch with this offensive line. I mean, I know that was something that Brian and I and we had all referenced pregame during the G-Bag Nation on 105.3 The Fan leading up to the game last week. The offensive line, could they hold up to really get a good evaluation of not only the running backs but the quarterbacks? I thought of Johnny Cornelius, Trevor Keegan, two guys in the middle, but how does Joe Milton do? And it's going to be big because you mentioned the Mingo and Camden Brown battle, but guys like Anthony Smith, others, Jordan Hudson, how do some of these other guys, because now you're not only just trying to make the Cowboys roster, you're trying to go out there and put some good tape on for the other 31 teams as well.
100%. The Cardinals are going to be playing without majority of their big names and their starters as well. I don't think Carson Beck's going to be able to get in the lineup because he's still banged up after the Hall of Fame game. So a lot of Minshew mania tonight. Minshew, Milton, and then, of course, Sam Howell probably taking things over for the Cowboys offense in half number 2. Just getting started here on the official pregame show of America's team. Under 53 minutes to kick off on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And coming up next, it's the Coach's Corner. The voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, standing by with Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer. That is coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Miller time. People think it just happens, but that's not true. You know what you got to do? You got to go say hello with some
Cowboys Radio Network. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. Cowboys in Arizona, getting ready for preseason game number 2, taking on the Cardinals. We'll go inside the owner's box with Jerry Jones coming up here in just a few minutes. But right now, it's time for tonight's Coach's Corner. The voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, standing by with Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer.
Fellas, thanks very much. We are definitely not in Oxnard anymore. You can tell by the weather, but we're going to get used to that. But preseason game number 2 with the Arizona Cardinals. Since there are 3, is there any more importance to this one than the last one? Like, in terms of, you want to build off what you did, and then does this become the most important preseason game, or is there such a thing?
Yeah, I don't think there is, Brad. I think the evaluation standpoint is becoming more and more important because we're getting ready to have to make some very, very difficult decisions when you talk about trimming this roster down. It's a very competitive roster, and so I think that's important. But we do want to take a few steps forward in a number of areas. Certainly we need to clean up the special teams. I think we've been very open and honest about that. There's the penalties, that we need to get tightened up, but we want to see progress. And hopefully we start a little faster, both offensively and defensively. We finished pretty strong against Seattle, but I'd like to see us come out of the gate a little bit faster.
I'm not trying to cut anybody any slack, but putting together special teams in preseason is really hard because, as Nick Sorensen explained 2 weeks ago to us, not only do you not know who's going to be on what team, you're adjusting according to who's playing when in the game. So how much do you weight the way your special teams performed last week by all of that, knowing that these are probably not anything like your special teams in New Jersey?
Yeah, well, again, number one, it is the most difficult job in all of coaching in preseason football as a special teams coach. There's guys that you would be using that don't play, or guys that you would be using that you take out. But you know me, Brad, you've been around me long enough. I'm not one to make excuses. And when you lose contain on the opening kickoff, when you lose contain on a punt return, when you field the ball on the 3-yard line, then subsequently come back and muff a punt inside the 2-yard line, and you grab and hold and things like that. Not pleased, not happy. Need to make it better.
How much does the quarterback rotation tonight, how much is it informed by what you saw last Saturday?
Yeah, you're going to see both Joe and Sam play, and they're going to go out there and compete. They both played really well. Honestly, they both threw touchdowns. They both moved the team. I thought that was great. And it's part of the evaluation process. And like I say, preseason games are a little bit like a midterm. You get a little bit of a bump in your grade. But I really like the direction both guys are trending. Joe, I thought, was as poised as he's been, as a Dallas Cowboy last week, and Sam settled in there late and had the big touchdown at the end of the first half and a 2-minute drive to Camden Brown, and both guys are competing like crazy for that backup spot.
Are there people that you want to see more of tonight based on what you saw last week and throughout the week?
Absolutely. I think, you'll see maybe a few linemen play a little bit more on offense, maybe even on defense. Get a few guys healthy coming back tonight. Jayshon Barham, Devin Moore, you'll see those guys play, which is great experience for them. But the numbers in the rotation are all part of the plan that we've really had in place for the last couple of weeks. For the most part, we adjust based off of things that we've seen, and there's a few minor adjustments, but it should play a little bit like how last game did.
And speaking of plans, when you went out to practice on Monday, you switched pretty much who in the offensive line, the guys who were on the right moved to the left. I presume that was all planned in advance. What are you hoping to see from those guys, and anyone in particular? And I'll ask you about Shelton, since he was a left tackle in college.
Sure. Well, I mean, again, it's like, if you're trying to play golf and you're a right-handed golfer and you are pretty good, and then you have to go and someone gives you a set of left-handed clubs, I'd probably, I wouldn't be very good. So we want to get these guys comfortable playing in both stances, right-hand stance, left-handed stance. Drew did a really good job for us at right tackle. He's a natural left tackle because that's what he did the most of. Nate Thomas is a guy that we think has flexibility to play both sides. And so it really is part of the rotation. TJ Bass has been playing center a bunch. We need to see him at right guard some because
the way you punch at left guard is different than the way you punch at right guard. My inside hand is dominant, different things, and so all part of the plan, and these guys understand that.
This is a depth chart question asked for all of the people in the intrawebs who think that deciding who's number one and who's number two at every position is a really important thing. There's been a big debate about RB2. My response has been, why is Malik Davis is going to do so many things on special teams? There may be times when Blue is the guy to have in the game, or Moff is the guy to have in the game, presuming they're all on the team. What's your feeling about all that at that position?
Yeah, again, I think, right now we're just watching these guys compete. It's a deep room. I don't like to put numbers on, running back 1, tight end 2, receiver 4. Like, who cares? If you're a good football player, you're going to find your way on this roster. But, as you alluded to, the special teams is critical for guys that aren't starters or guys who are going to play 60 to 55 snaps a game. And that's why, getting back to the special teams, that is so important that these guys show up in those areas, because that's ultimately how a lot of these decisions are going to be made with the last handful of roster spots.
This is a pretty unfair question, but which position room is deeper for you, wide receiver or cornerback right now?
I'm not going to answer that. It's a good question. I appreciate you answering it, but they're both asking that. But they're both deep, and what I like about it is they both have some young players that we're really, really excited about. We've talked about Siobhan Revel. We've talked about Devin Moore. You've talked about Anthony Smith, Camden Brown, Jordan Hudson. So I think it's they're both loaded, and we're excited about that, and we feel like it's going to be hard to keep them all, and we might have to make some tough decisions.
All right, have fun tonight. Thank God for air conditioning.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, fellas, back to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. Of course, Shoddy is keeping things close to the vest, per usual, here as we get set for preseason game number 2. Tonight's Coach's Corner brought to you by Gillette, the official shave of the Dallas Cowboys. And we are now under 40 minutes to kick off. Let's go back out to Arizona, into the owner's box with Christy Scales and Jerry Jones. That is coming up next. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
We've all got a wild side. Feed it with Jack Links. Now feed it with more Jack Links. Now use your wild side to smash through the door. Now ride your wild side down the stairs like a sled. Now run!
Eric Giafalo and Brian Broaddus.
All right, we're 35 minutes to kick off here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Preseason game number 2. Let's go out to Arizona, live from the owner's box. It's Christy Scales and Jerry Jones.
Well, guys, we want to ask Jerry about a very special guest he has this evening on the sideline. Now, we've had presidents of the United States, but tonight the president of the Navajo Nation is your special guest because you have playing tonight offensive line Shiraz Pete, the first Navajo to sign in the NFL, and I know that you are so proud to have him represent America's team.
Well, first of all, it's great to be in his hometown, so to speak. And we have such a respect for what the Indian Nation in general. We're pretty close to Oklahoma and we're pretty close to Arkansas. They have such a lineage in that area relative to our ancestors. And my grandmother was of a quarter of Cherokee. So we've all taken a lot of pride in what they represent.
Well, we're excited to see Shiraz play again tonight. Let me ask you about the battle at backup quarterback because Joe Milton had an excellent second half last week, but Sam Howell had a really good first half. We know Joe Milton's going to get the start tonight. How is that race shaping out?
Well, first of all, we've got to remember how important the backup quarterback is. 2 years ago, Dak had a tough time of it after about 6 games, I would call. And Rush came in and won the games and won the majority of the games and really did the job. That's what we're looking for here. And so it's a very important part of this team. It's a very important part of what we're going to be looking at these next 2 preseason games.
How is backup running back shaping up? We know that Malik Davis is a solid guy. Jaden Blue is going to play in spite of that shoulder injury. Phil Maffa, how do you see that shaping up?
Well, I like Davis. And what I like about Davis is it showed up at our game in Seattle, but it really shows up at practice. He's consistent, and we've seen that last year when he played. He finds the soft spots, and boy, does he accelerate. So he's going to be tough competition for those other guys. Blue, we got to work to get the ball to him on the outside more. That's where he excelled at Texas. That's what we need to do here, and hopefully tonight we'll do that.
Switching to the defensive side of the ball, Jerry, about 5 different people, coaches, teammates, I asked them, who are you excited to see on defense? And it's Jayshawn Barham, your 3rd-round pick, the outside linebacker. Didn't get to play last week because of the groin injury. I understand he's also going to get green dot duties tonight and help relay those play calls. But I'm told he's very serious-minded and high football IQ. What are they saying in the meetings about Jayshawn?
It's killed him internally to not get to play last week. He thought he should be out there competing. But we've got a lot of promise for him, and his physical attributes would be so additive to what we're trying to do on our defense. And he has shown the kind of instincts. There's just something about a linebacker that has to smell it. And I mean really has to have intuitive, natural see it. And we think he's got it.
We appreciate the visit. Thanks so much, Jerry. That's the view from the owner's box here at State Farm Stadium in Phoenix, Arizona, as we continue counting down to Cowboys at Cardinals. Let's turn things back over to Zach and Eric.
Thank you so much, Christy. And the view from the owner's box is brought to you by Yeti, the official cooler of the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. That was vintage Jerry right there, man. Barham. He's just got to smell it. And
man.
just by looking at him, I can tell that's a guy that smells it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, Malik Davis getting the start, I think that's something where clearly, his performance last week vaulted him. And you know what? He probably should have earned that with what we saw at the end of last season. I think coming into it, the team, much like we were, we were hoping those rookies from last year going into year 2 would take that bump. Unfortunately, they just haven't. But I did know Jerry wanting to see Blue get the ball on the outside more. And he's right. I mean, try and get him out there in space. I do think he's He's done some nice things with the screen pass last week, but also we saw that out there in the week that we got to be at training camp there in Oxnard. Jaden Blue in the screen game is certainly an area where he can go ahead and use his skill set very, very well.
Yeah, would love to see some of that action tonight. And I think that's a good point by Jerry. A lot of that stuff running the football last week was in the gut of the offensive line, and certainly you would love to see him flourish in that role as well. But the bread and butter for Jaden Blue is using that speed, getting to the edge. So hopefully you see some of that tonight. It is good that he's going to be on the field in general. We had that question coming in today because he was banged up throughout the week, but that's a guy fighting for a spot right now, and it will be somewhat limited. You're not going to see a ton of him tonight, but hopefully you see just enough to get the excitement back when it comes to what Jaden Blue can bring to the table. Okay, we continue the pregame show brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. This is interesting, okay? You have Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and he's obviously in Arizona giving us some updates on who's in, who's out, healthy and playing. Devin Moore, it is good that the corner rookie out of Florida is going to be out there. He's a guy with a long injury history. He's been banged up throughout camp, but you need to see more reps from him and a cornerback group that I think everybody's fighting for jobs 4, 5, 6, however many they end up keeping. You got the three that you like, Bland and Durant and Revel, and after that, everybody's in a dogfight there. So more on the field tonight. That's great. Zion Childress, another safety player, is going to be out there, and of course, Barham, we're all fired up for him. Not playing tonight, Caleb Downs, we expected. PJ Locke, safety, free agent that they picked up. TJ Bass, Von Miller, and how about this one? Marquise Bell.
Stunning. And I noticed, on the pregame show that we've got here on CBS, with DallasCowboys.com, I saw Marquise Bell dressed, right, but he's not in the pads. So he's out there much like you'd see CeeDee Lamb, Dak. And so I actually texted Nick. I said, hey, is Bell hurt? Because I thought he was a guy fighting to make the team. I think Julius Wood, Elijah Clark, and even Zion Childress, who was doing some nice things prior to his injury, they've got some tough decisions to make in that safety room. But Marquise Bell appears to be safe. The fact that he's not playing. Now, he has been a good special teams player in his career. The penalties were a problem last year. Can he clean that up? But I really thought, and we talked about that in the post-game show last week with Brad, if we're going to keep 6 safeties here, Bell to me, because the farther away he gets from the line of scrimmage, the more susceptible I think he is. Coverage has not necessarily been a strong suit for him so far in camp, to my opinion. But, man, I thought that is a very interesting move, which means Julius Wood, Elijah Clark, Zion Childress, everybody else in that safety room, you're on notice. You need a big game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they love what he brings to the table on special teams, because watching him play over the last couple of years since Dan Quinn has been gone, and then even out in Oxnard, he was the guy that you're looking at, felt like, man, Dak and the receivers are picking on him. He's the guy that they're looking at when they're dropping back to pass and saying, where's Bell? Because he can be had. Julius Wood has been maybe my favorite player to watch throughout Oxnard, and then you saw it firsthand last week. There is no way that guy can be cut from this roster. He is too dang good. And Elijah Clark, similarly, has
Clark's
been
a hell of a special teams player.
He is. I'll never forget that play where he's getting pushed down a million times and keeps fighting and then makes the tackle, and that was in a game, I think it was last year.
I think it was the Eagles.
Yeah, it was the Eagles game. Yeah, so, I mean, they all bring something to the table, but I guess Marquise Bell has locked himself up on this Cowboys roster. But Julius Wood, number 32, if you haven't seen him, watch him tonight, because he flies around and he is a true joy to watch play the safety position. All right, we are just over 25 minutes to kickoff. Let's go live back to Arizona, inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, having a game plan to stay healthy this season shouldn't be complicated.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're under 20 minutes to kick off preseason game number 2 here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Let's go live to Arizona inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Brought to you by WinStar, proud to be the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Brad, how are we, sir?
Doing well. Have we formally, Eric, dedicated both the pre and post game show to Brian Broaddus yet tonight?
We have weaved him.
We have not. Listen to this. That means no.
No, we have not.
That means you have not yet formally. You've gone this far without the captain of the ship, and you have not yet formally dedicated the pre and post game show to the impending good health of Brian Broaddus, who we all know is listening.
Well, maybe you take that honor right now.
I just did it.
Okay.
I just did it, Broaddus. Hey, Broaddus, remember who loves you, baby. Just call me Kojak.
Well, how fired up are you to watch some Jay Sean Barham tonight, Brad?
Frankly, there may be some players more fired up than I am. I mean, we've heard from some of them off the record. They're really excited to see him. I don't want to get too amped up because he's not going to play like a whole game. But and this guy, he's a different guy, Eric. There's nobody on the team who will tell you that they have engaged in great social discourse with the guy. I mean, he's friendly enough. He's apparently a good teammate. But this is an intense, I'm here for one reason, and that is to mess you up guy. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him. But I think we're only going to get like a shrimp cocktail's worth. We're not going to get a meal, and that's okay if we see him run around and hit somebody, and maybe a little bit more next week, and then let's save it for New Jersey. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Great visit with Shoddy as always, Brad, talking special teams, the switch with the tackles, Barham, Devin Moore, running backs. What stood out to you overall from your conversation with the head coach?
Oh, he always answers the question, Zach, and I'm not too familiar with having guys always answer the question, which is kind of cool when you talk to him. But I think that he's pretty candid about what guys have to do, and he's candid both in doing that show with me and in the press conferences that he has daily. I did think that when we asked him about, I don't know if it was this week or last week, when I asked him about the backup offensive lineman, and I didn't mention Bass, which I did on purpose because I know Bass is their 6th offensive lineman, and he made a point of saying, I'm glad you didn't mention Bass. So tonight, Bass is not playing, like Caleb Downs is not playing. There's just a few of those guys who got a taste last week, and they're not playing this week, and then there's a couple of them like Revel who didn't play last week, but he'll play this week, but he won't play a lot. And so I think that Schottenheimer does as good a job as anyone with whom I'm familiar, including the legend who's 85 today, the great Bill Parcells. Wow. Of telling you what he wants to tell you and making you feel like you just learned something, whether you did or not. Schottenheimer's good at that.
Brad, you and I were talking about the safety room in the postgame last week. We love that, the depth there. We're trying to keep as many as we can. Marquise Bell out tonight. It's not that he's hurt or anything. It seems like that's an indication he's made the team. How much more challenging does that make the numbers crunch now?
Here's the thing about that, Zach. We have to be careful about that because, and I'm not saying you're wrong, because I don't know, but it could be that he's not playing because they know who he is.
Okay.
And what they need is to see more of Julius Wood, for example. Now, I think they know who Elijah Clark is because he played a lot last year. And it may be that they want to see more of Reddy Stewart playing safety. Stewart is the closest thing in the second group, I think, to being able to do, don't take this wrong, friends, to being able to do the kinds of things that Caleb Downs does in terms of he can play corner, he can play slot, he can play safety, which he hasn't done before. And so it may be, it's easy to read Bell not playing that he's made the team. It's also easy, in my opinion, to read it that let's look at Wood, let's look at Clark,
Great point.
Let's look at Stewart, and let's even look at Zion Childress, who did not play last week, and I think that in Childress' case, they want to see if they have a Reddy Stewart-like guy who can play corner and play nickel and also play safety. So that might be as much about other guys they want to find out about than about whatever Bell's status really is.
Brad, you're the man. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the game. We'll be listening.
Okay, boys. All right, remember, the pre- and post-game shows are dedicated to the impending good health of Brian Broaddus, whether Eric and Zach want to say it or not.
Aye, Captain.
Amen. There he goes.
Bye,
voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, with us here on the Brian Broaddus pregame
Shame on us,
show.
Eric. Shame on us.
All right, let's stay in Arizona quickly here with the best in the business. Christy Scales, her keys to the game, brought to you by Pollock, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. What's on your mind, Christy?
Well, backup quarterback, right? And let's see if Joe Milton can build on the momentum that he built for himself with a strong second half last week and a good week of practice this week. So plan is for him to get the first half and Sam Howell the second. But I'm told plans are fungible, so we'll see how much if Milton goes or if he gets any in the second half tonight. Interior of the offensive line, questions there. As you mentioned with Brad, that TJ Bass not playing tonight because they know what they have in him, but this is an important game for the Nick Leveretts and the Keegans of the world, right? And so, and also going to be interesting to see Drew Shelton, the rookie fourth-round pick, back in his natural spot where he played in college at left tackle, because up until the past week, he'd been getting work at right tackle. So this is a big game for Nate Thomas and for Drew Shelton to see, if one of them can step up, because swing tackle, in my mind, is still unsettled at this point. And then, honestly, guys, can we have some special teams? Can we just have one half where we don't have a penalty?
Let's do that.
I know that most of these guys are not going to be playing among the 53 or the active 48 on game day, but can we just clean up special teams? Because all of last season was below average, and it was not a strong start last week. So just as a unit, let's just see some discipline and some good judgment and just, leverage and containment and just normal things that you want to see on special teams. I don't care if it's a third-string guy or a fourth-string guy. We need to see improvement in that unit.
Amen. Well said, Christy. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the game. We'll be listening.
Thank you, fellas.
There she goes, Christy Scales here on the Brian Broaddus Dallas Cowboys pregame show. That'll do it for us tonight. We'll be back at the half, Chuck and I, the Brian Broaddus halftime show and the Brian Broaddus postgame show. We look forward to that. Kickoff is around the corner with Brad, Babe, and Christy. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
You've heard the phrase, all hat and no cattle. Well, Whataburger's Bacon Wrangler is anything but. It's got beef that's always hot off the grill.